Sure that we are live. And obviously, with me today, first of all, before anyone else and anything else, we'd like to say good morning to Grey Eagle, who is always standing to my right side, thank goodness. I'd also like to say good morning to Chris. Say good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary. Good morning, Karen.
And we have a guest. She's still here. She's still not gone home. Say good morning, Karen.
Good morning, everybody.
And today is May the 26th. It's my good friend Stanley's birthday. He will not be watching, but happy birthday if you are watching by any chance. If you see this at any point, Stanley, happy birthday to you. Right, so Karen and I yesterday went to dinner with Stanley and his wife, lovely wife, and we had a really nice dinner, didn't we? We went to an Italian restaurant. There's also before we went to dinner, we were going up to Sarasota, which is about a 30-minute drive or something, maybe a little bit more. And there's a fantastic Oriental shop, and I wanted to see what they had in the way of dumplings and things like that. So we checked that out, didn't we? I took a big freezer bag with me. We checked that out. We bought some stuff there. And then we arrived at the restaurant a little early. So we actually sat at the bar waiting for our friends. We actually had a drink. I can't remember the last time. Oh, yeah, we had a rum and Coke the other day.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't remember the last time I had a drink. And I certainly can't remember the last time I had a drink when I went out. Are you all interested in this? Is anybody actually listening to this? Are you actually really, really interested in my waffling on this morning? Right. One of the reasons for waffling on and talking about the good stuff is because there's so much awful stuff to talk about, isn't there? There's always so much awful stuff to talk about in this world of ours. It's a scary place. Lots of things happen, lots of tragedies. And I would, especially this morning, like to mention the families who lost their beautiful children in the shooting in Texas. We do send out our prayers, and we do send out our love to all of the families and all of the people who've been affected on a personal level. I know, and I know that what I'm going to say next is not going to make it any easier on anyone at all. But I do know that those children will be safe, they will be well. I totally believe that their angels were there for them. And I know some of you are thinking, well, why weren't there angels there for them before it happened? Why weren't they protected? But I do feel that they were protected. It is my belief that they are safe and well. But I do understand also that this is so new and so very fresh for all of us, and it's such an awful tragedy. There are a trillion tragedies going on in our world today. So many, many, many. And there's so much violence in our world today. And I know that there is a group of people, we're going to talk more about this later on tonight. We're having a special show. We're going to be talking about violence and evil, and perhaps the lesser of some of the evils. We're going to talk about how we can manage what is happening in this world today. So we're only going to touch on this briefly this morning, but I wanted to talk about it before we began the show, because it is important for me that you understand how affected, even though I know those children are safe, and even though I know that there's really no good reason for this awful violence, I do want you all to understand that I'm asking you all on a daily basis to join with me, sending prayers and sending healing thoughts and sending our love. We talk about thoughts being the most powerful thing we have, and if you could just spare a moment, even as I'm talking to you now about this, if you could spare a moment to send your thoughts, let them wing their way to the families to the people who are affected on a personal level with this awful thing that happened, with this awful, awful loss that people are so, so very much grieving over right now. So we're sending our love, we're sending our healing prayers, and I want you all to know that I feel it is so important that we join together, because collective thoughts are more powerful than a single thought. Collective thoughts and collective actions are more powerful than a single thought and a single action. And if we all join together on this morning and send out our collective thoughts, our collective healing, our collective energy, it is going to be so much more powerful and so much more positive than it would be if we were just simply doing this on our own. We do have our hands, healing hands around the world. Every morning at 11 a.m. we get together, we think, when I say we get together, all of those who work with us, all of those who want to join with us at 11 a.m. wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is for you, at 11 a.m. wherever you are in the world, if you can just stop for, it only takes 30 seconds, just stop, send out your healing prayers out into the world. I do believe that it makes a difference. Unfortunately, we don't always see the difference that it makes, but I do believe that prayer makes a huge, huge difference in our world and creates a good and a positive energy, where perhaps before, that energy was not so good, it was not so strong. All right. That said, we are now moving on. As I've said, we will be talking more about this tonight. Our show will be at 6 p.m. I believe. Is that right, Chris? Am I right?
6 p.m. correct. Eastern Standard Time.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That means for all of you Brits out there listening, whatever that is, 6 and 5 is 11. So hopefully, curl up in bed, get comfy, take yourselves a nice drink and join us. If nothing else, we'll put you to sleep. But we'll be talking about violence. We'll be talking about the evils of this world, and perhaps make some suggestions as to how we cope with it. Because I know so many of us struggle with this, and so many of us struggle with the idea of God and the concept of God. And if there was a God, how could it happen, and how could God let such a thing happen, and so on. All of that tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we are now moving on. We're moving forward with our show this morning. And Chris, is there anybody there?
Yes, our chat room is full and people are all starting off with their good mornings to you both. Annika says, thank you again for a lovely consultation. Part of my sadness about missing my love has been replaced with joy, knowing he is just as eagerly awaiting our reunion as I am.
Oh, Annika, thank you. That's so nice. Yes. Now you've mentioned, I'm allowed to mention that Annika did have a consultation with me. If you want to say more about it, Annika, if you want to inspire other people, feel free. The chat room is yours. We'll be looking forward. I know people will want to have questions for you. So if you're in the chat room and you want to ask Annika a question about her consultation, please keep it to that. Maybe we could share that. Maybe we could share some of that. I don't want to put you on the spot, Annika, but if you feel free to do it, if you're happy to do it, we'll do that too. I think it's always a good thing. People wonder what on earth happens in a consultation. What does she do? What does she, meaning me? What does she do? What does she say? How does it work? And so on and so forth. And it's always really very nice when people, they have their consultations and they want to share a little bit of it with everyone else. So Annika, we really appreciate it. Keep going, Chris.
All right. Cheryl is saying, let's each try to spread something positive within our own local environment. Make one person's day with something positive.
I love that. I absolutely love that, and I'm all for it. And as you will all know, I've said before, we can't necessarily do too much about the rest of the world, and we can't necessarily stop certain things from happening. Things will happen anyway, but what we can do is we can control in a way, not as much as we might like to think, but we can control in a way our own environment, and so bringing joy and bringing fun and bringing laughter into our own environment is very, very important. um, Chris and Karen and I were having a conversation this morning. You might want to sort of join in with this, Chris. Chris and I, the three of us were having a conversation this morning, and we know that there are a group of people who they are. Where were they from, Chris? You were telling me about a young white man came in and.
Buffalo had a shooting. 10 individuals were killed and 3 were injured.
Okay.
Within this same month.
Right, and we know that there are people who are saying, well, how come the world is much more interested in Johnny Depp and what's going on in his life, and how come people are so much more interested and we're not getting the press that other people are getting? And I know there are people in Buffalo are thinking that they're not getting the press because they just so happen to be black. I'm not sure that that's the case. I think that, and I can speak certainly for myself, we've been, thanks to Karen, I never watch the news. I have to tell you, I never watch this stuff, but I kind of got a little bit hooked because we were talking about soul signs the other day, and I was trying to figure out what soul signs the people who are coming to court are, and what difference, if any, that makes to the situation. So we have been following that, and we have been looking at that a little bit. And I think that, I was saying to Chris, I think there's so much tragedy in the world that I think sometimes people just, it's so awful and it's so painful that sometimes people just can't handle it anymore, and they need a little bit of light relief. Now, I know that Johnny Depp does not think that his stuff is light relief, but for many of us, and especially if you compare it to what happened yesterday, many of us, we just need to take a break, and we have to take a break, and it's a survival mechanism. We're going to talk about that again later on tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but it's all sort of comes together. We cannot control the rest of the world. We cannot control what's going on a TV show. We cannot control anything except those things that go on with us, and really mostly we can with our own selves. And if we can focus on our own selves and focus on how we, in our small world, in our small environment, can find things to laugh at, to find things to be joyful for, I think that is a very important thing that we all should strive to do. So Sharon, I totally agree with what you're saying. Chris.
Andrew and Brian were having a conversation together talking about soul and spirit. One said he thought that they were the same thing. Andrew says, I read and I think that the soul contains the sum total of our experience, whereas a person's spirit is the essence of a person's presence this time around on the earth plane. If you Google it, most Christian church definitions come up. Has this question come up before? If not, do you have any chance of elaborating?
I do. This question has come up a trillion times, I have to say, Andrew, and my understanding, and I'm only going to speak to my understanding, when Grey Eagle and I were working on the book Soul Signs, which is out, and it's an amazing book. We've talked about soul signs a lot, so we won't go into that so much. But when we were talking about how the soul is created, the different pockets of energy that are used to create a soul, how that the energy of a soul influences each of us. Very much so, in fact. And I'm going to suggest I'm pointing you to the book Soul Signs if you want to know more of that. Okay, here is the difference. And there is a difference. When we say is the soul and the spirit the same? I guess you could say yes, but there are, let me explain. All right, so we liken the soul to a daffodil bulb. So here you go, you got the daffodil bulb, right? I'm talking about the soul. When I'm talking about the daffodil bulb, I'm talking about the soul. So the daffodil bulb, we reach out, we take it. What are we going to do with it? Of course, what we're going to do with it is we're going to find, if we're a good gardener, we're going to find the best soil. We're going to find the best nutrients. We're going to find the best environment to plant our bulb. Got it? God finds the best environment for us to plant, to bring us to this earth, to plant us in this good soil. The best environment for our growth. That does not mean the best environment for us physically, because if that were the case, all of those people who loved hot weather would be in hot countries, and all of those who were in cold, who like the cold, would be in cold countries. We're not talking about the physical well-being now. We're talking about spiritual well-being. So the bulb is planted in good soil, and the soil that is going to bring the soul the best of food, experience, light, etc., etc. Like the daffodil bulb, it will put roots then into the earth. In other words, it will find a way to feed itself from its experiences in the world. So the bulb puts roots into the ground, and eventually, with enough rain, with enough goodness, so on and so forth, whatever the soul needs, it is going to grow. And it grows and it becomes more of what it should be, and eventually the soul begins to expand. Now, as with everything in this, on this earth of ours, in fact, anywhere and everywhere in the universe, I think, we have energy. Everything is about energy. And we talk about our energy, our aura, the energy field that surrounds us. People like myself can actually see the energy field that surrounds people. We can see the energy field that we can see every living thing. So that means every tree, every leaf, every petal on a flower that is living, and they create their own beautiful energy. The same as the daffodil bulb. So as it's creating its energy, as it's growing more and becoming more and developing more, sooner or later you will see the results of that in this beautiful golden flower. The flower is the energy that this soul is emanating. The flower is like the spirit. The flower is the energy, the incredible and beautiful and golden energy that every single one of us has. And every soul has its own energy, and it shows in its energy field that surrounds the soul. And we liken it, if you can sort of visualize, here you've got the bulb and here you've got the flower. This is the soul. The bulb is the soul. The flower is the spirit, or the energy field that surrounds the soul. The spirit, the essence, the energy is the essence of the soul, created from the soul and created from the soul's growth. Now, if your soul is not growing as it should, like the daffodil bulb, the flower won't be as great. The spirit will not shine as bright. It will not shine out as brightly. The energy of the soul will not shine so brightly because we're not feeding it. We're not paying attention to it. We're not sort of working at it. Those who work on a spiritual level, who are very often, some truly spiritual people don't even have to work at it. They just are. Their energy field glows out. It absolutely glows, and you can't avoid seeing it. It shines in their face, it shines in their eyes, everything about that person. The energy of the soul permeates throughout the physical body. It shines out and beyond the physical body, and is amazing. It's amazing to see. So you cannot have a spirit, you cannot have the energy of the soul without the soul. They go together. But just because a soul is growing, learning, does not necessarily mean that its energy field is as bright as it could be. So we need to feed the soul, and this is what we're talking about when we're talking about feeding the soul. We need to feed the soul. We need to pay attention to the soul. We need to pay attention to, to how we can create a more calming and loving environment where the soul can grow, and we nurture it, we recognize it, we pay attention to it, we feed it. So there you have it. I think that's probably a good explanation. What do you think, Karen? That's a good explanation, right? So there you have it, Andrew. And here's the danger in reading too much, because we all know there are so many people who have so many different opinions about so many different things, and if you're not careful, you're going to get so confused with what you read. Well, he says that, and well, she says this, and how can they all be wrong? Well, how can they all be right, and so on. I will let you into a little secret. I'm not sure I've ever revealed this before. It's not a big deal, so I'm only thinking about it now when I'm talking about reading. When I first began as a spiritual medium, let's say, when I first began my work, I determined really, really early on that I was not going to read anything. I was not going to listen particularly to, or to delve into, or to explore spiritual leaders and spiritual teachers. I did not want my own experiences. I did not want to have to wonder afterwards, now then, have I had that experience because I read about it? Or is this really my experience? So for a long time, I read nothing. I didn't read newspapers. You would think, wouldn't you, that it would be the other way? You would think that here I am. Suddenly I find out I can talk to dead people. Wow, and you just want to absorb then every little bit of knowledge you can. However, I knew it was so important to me that my experiences were real, and I knew that they would be real because I'm a very skeptical person. I wanted to be absolutely certain that what I was experiencing, what I felt, what I saw, what I heard, I wanted to be absolutely certain that this was not something that I'd read about and then that was in my mind and then created in my mind. I wanted to be absolutely certain, even when things happened to me and I didn't understand them because I hadn't read about them. I wanted to get my understanding from the experience, not from books, not from other people's words, not from other people's ideas. I wanted my ideas, my experiences, my thoughts, my feelings, I wanted them to be my own. So for a very, very long time, I didn't read anything. I don't think you've never heard me say that. Have you? Or have you? Maybe, yeah.
No, I don't know if I've ever heard you actually say that, but I do know that there's been times when I think when you were teaching the people from the UK, and part of it is that it gets too complicated and too complex.
I advise my students, just for a few months when you're with me, can you either not read anything, don't investigate other people, other teachers. If you have already had training with someone else, put it to one side. Give yourself a chance to have your own experiences. And if those own experiences match up then with something you've already read, or they match up with something you read in the future, great. If they don't, well, for you figure it out. But I feel very strongly that people read, if you're not careful, you can get into the trap of reading so very much that you don't know quite right from wrong, or which is this and which is that. So just mentioning that. Chris, let's keep going.
I'm going to add 2 things in here, Rosemary, which I think will help anybody who sees this video in the future sort of summarize. So, if you can talk about 2 things, losing a child in the womb or stillborn and how that relates to the daffodil bulb, and about people don't go before their time.
Well, this is very sensitive, and I actually think that we should be talking about that tonight. The people who choose to join in with us tonight are the people who choose to perhaps hear things that a lot of people are perhaps not ready for. So I'm actually not going to talk too much about that today. I'm going to leave that for tonight, but we certainly will be talking about certain beliefs and certain circumstances and certain situations that I've experienced. And again, we'll be willing to answer as many questions as people have. But this morning is a much more, let's say, light-hearted show. It's an educational show in many regards, because you actually can't talk to me or listen to me without being educated in some way if you are open to it, because that's what we do. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. Even when we finish the show, I'm still a teacher. I'm teaching myself. I'm teaching Karen. I taught you how to make eggplant.
You were teaching the people in the restaurant last night.
Oh yeah, we had a great
Right?
conversation
Well,
with 3 lovely barmen. One was from
Bali,
one was from
Korea.
What was the? Where was the other one?
Turkey.
And Turkey. So that we had someone from Bali, someone from Korea, someone from Turkey, and we were all discussing all sorts of fun things, which often happens, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
And then you had 2 gals from one from Canada and one from England. You had quite the international experience.
and Stanley and Maryland.
then yeah, but they weren't involved. Yeah,
but
it was yeah. That's so funny you should say that, because it's just occurred to me. Here we are. We're sitting in Florida. We're in America, where there are 5 of us discussing, and not one of us from America. Not one of us is American. Interesting that. But anyway, there you go. But tonight, if you want to go deeper into this stuff, be aware that tonight we will be talking about some sensitive stuff, which we're not going to be talking about this morning. So I do thank you, Chris, but let's move on.
Mark is saying, Rosemary, I felt the same feelings as you just shared. I know that they were all protected and swiftly taken, and peace surrounded them. This evening, a friend and I are going to lift them all in spiritual prayer. We can't take the sorrow away, but what I can do is ask these beautiful children to pray for us. We can pray to them, ask them to be every with their loved ones, and pray for an end to violence. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, moving on, Chris. We are not going to. So I know that people want to comment on this sort of thing, but if you want to comment, we're going to be doing that show tonight. So let's move on a little bit, please. Chris.
Mary says, my brother has some health issues, and I think he is giving up. Do you see or have advice? Also, my home, 3 children, and husband were hit with a horrible storm. Do you feel that our home will be fixed?
Let me think. Let me deal with the first part, because there are lots of people who suffer with different ailments, and sometimes people suffer with depression. It's an awful thing to have to deal with. You can, as far as your brother's concerned, all you can do is be there to support him in whatever he chooses. So I think you always sound like you're a good sister because you're asking about him. So I think, just be supportive and try to help him as best you can. Your home, I don't usually do this, but I'm listening to Grey Eagle. I don't get too much about it, but you're going to have to be really patient. And yes, you'll be fine. In the long run, you'll be fine, but I think it'll take longer than you anticipate. Chris, keep going.
Julie says, my father passed recently. He would have been 79 on May 29th. Can you send him a happy birthday for Sunday?
Well, I certainly can, but you've already done it. Remember, he knows you, he hears you, probably better than he hears me. When people come to me for a consultation, I'll say how important it is for me to hear their voice. Just say yes to me if you understand me, no if you don't understand me. You don't have to elaborate on anything for me, but those in the spirit world, they know us, they know our voice, they connect with our energy, they can see our spirit, the aura of our soul. They can see it shining through. So I'm sure, Julie, that on Sunday you'll be shouting out happy birthday to your daddy, but we'll try and remember to shout it out as well. So happy birthday to, let's say happy birthday to all of the May babies. Happy birthday to you. Right, there you go.
Andrew said, I had hands-on spiritual healing yesterday.
Oh, nice.
From a quote, official medium / healer in St. Matthew's South End.
An official medium, okay.
Yeah, Rosemary, do you have your card?
No.
I mentioned my friend said I have a lot of white and blue light, and that you mentioned blue is healing and white was spiritual.
Yeah.
The healer said yes, you are absorbing knowledge. Then she had to run off. Did she mean I'm absorbing knowledge from a divine intelligence? Or do you think she meant I'm digesting all the stuff I have read?
Andrew, I can't comment on what somebody else tells you. I don't know. Here's what I do know. I think, you've been watching this show now for long enough to know that I'm a very skeptical person. What is important when you hear something, you hear someone say something, what is important is what you take away from it, what you absorb. And I personally think, because you're watching this show and you're obviously trying to discover, you're reading, maybe too much sometimes, you're experiencing, you're having different experiences, I would say to you, I don't quite know what an official medium is. I've never used that term for myself. Makes me smile a little bit, actually, and I'm not even sure why, but anyway, it does make me smile. Maybe I'm an unofficial. Could I be an unofficial? Andrew, listen to me. Go with what you're feeling. Go with what you're feeling inside. Go with what you know to be true. You're obviously learning, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're learning the right things in the right way. But if your heart is open and your mind is open, you will find your path and you will find your answers. You've got to trust in you. But my advice would be, don't be afraid to be skeptical. When people say they are something or another, doesn't necessarily mean that they are real. That includes me. So be skeptical. Be skeptical about all of us, and pay attention to what we all say to you, and pay attention to what we do. I personally, if I'm giving healing to someone, or if any of my students, did you notice something that he said? She had to run off. None of my students giving healing would ever run out on a patient. I don't know what that's about. It might have been, Andrew, that you were talking her ear off and she just needed an excuse to leave. Who knows? Or it could be that she just, only could give you so much time. I don't know. But don't be afraid. Don't be swayed by when somebody says, I am an official this or that. Doesn't mean that they are. It doesn't mean that they're not either. Not saying that they're not. I'm not saying that they are. I just never heard that term before. It made me smile. I'm going to have to go around and say, officially, sorry, Andrew, making fun here. I think you've got to listen to your heart, stay open-minded, and keep your heart open. And just be careful when you read stuff. Read with a skeptical mind is my advice. That's what I do. Just because somebody says something to me, just because somebody tells me they've had an experience, doesn't mean that they have. They might think that they have, they might believe that they have, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have. So stay open-minded, and by staying open-minded, you will find your own truth. Yes, Chris.
Eric was also talking about a consultation he had with you. He says, it was so helpful. She knew and told me things no one could possibly have known, except for me and those that I had known that had passed. Specific details of what was going on at the time gave immediate and accurate confirmation, and the wisdom of the choices to follow helped change my life for the positive and get me through those rough times and circumstances.
And you know, Eric, my daffodil man, in response to what you just said to me, what you just wrote in the chat room, thank you for that, by the way. That's so sweet of you. You know that if I can help you in any way, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Why am I calling him the daffodil man, you might ask? And Eric might tell you, you just never know. But he is my daffodil man. Chris.
Rhonda says, I had a consultation back in October.
Uh-oh.
And it was so awesome. I was able to hear from my dad and several family members. Through that consultation, I was able to let go of some hurt that had haunted me for quite a few years.
Thank you, Rhonda. You're all coming out of the woodwork now, aren't you? Thank you so much. I think it's important that, you know, we try our best to inspire whenever and wherever we can. And I think Eric's comments, as lovely as they might be for me, I think that when people who don't even know what a consultation is, or people who are just coming into this or learning about this, I think it's helpful to hear from people who've had that experience. So I think when people are commenting about their experience with me, I think what they're trying to do is to not flatter me. I don't need the flattery. Do I need to, how am I looking today? I don't really know. I don't care. I don't need the flattery. But I think it's important, you know, that if we have a wonderful experience, that we share it, because, you know, because that's how we can inspire other people. So, my darlings, thank you.
So yesterday we had the bottom brick exercise with Michael.
We did.
We heard from Michael today.
Oh, I'm so glad we heard from him, because it was such a weird ending. We sort of switched off. We lost poor Michael, and I did so want to talk. Michael, I don't know if you're listening, if you're there, or you should follow this later, but I did want to just chat to you afterwards. We didn't just want to cut you off, but somehow we lost you. Did we hear from Michael? Good, bad, what? How it was? Great. Chris, did you manage to put his the bottom brick exercise up yet, or no?
No, that's going up today.
So if anyone missed our bottom bricker, our lovely first male bottom bricker, not really, but first male bottom bricker in a public forum, Michael was so brave and so brilliant, and as one of our viewers said, so handsome, and he, you know, so we were wondering about him. If you missed it, you can go to where, Chris? To YouTube?
Well, right now it's up on YouTube, yes, but by the end of the day, it'll be up on your website as well.
Okay, so you can find it on YouTube. You go to Rosemary Altea, bottom brick. You'll see all of our bottom brickers. We're getting quite a few of them, but it's a very exclusive club. If you want to be a bottom bricker, as Michael says, everybody should try it. If you want to be a bottom, I don't know if he feels that way today, but yesterday he said everyone should do it, everyone should try it. And I believe that absolutely, because I think it's such an enlightening experience, and I've been doing this with students for, more than 100 years, I would say.
You have your cane out?
Time. Yeah, well, yes.
Let's hear the cackle in your voice now.
Let's not talk about canes, because I had a nasty fall yesterday. And if you can believe this, we're sort of getting off track a little bit, but if you can believe this, I was sitting in my driveway. It had been pouring with rain. I had Karen there, and I couldn't get up. I'd fallen, smacked my head, my side, everything. I shouldn't have said this publicly because I haven't told my daughter yet. But anyway, I particularly did not tell her this morning when I spoke to her. But anyway, and I just couldn't get up. And you're sitting there, you're hurting. My ankle was twisted, etc., etc. My bum and it was bruised, and I'm sitting in the rain.
And I had a hard time getting.
We
you
were
up.
all
It's
dressed
not
up
like you were by yourself.
No, we were all dressed up because we'd just been out to dinner, and I have to say there was a point where I was more concerned about the jewelry than I was about my head. We laughed about that. How can you laugh in circumstances where you're in so much pain? As I said earlier, sometimes life is so awful that all we can do is we can sink into it, and poor me, or we can find the funny side, and I'm afraid I found the funny side. Now back to, sorry, Chris. We heard from Michael today. I'm so sorry, everybody. We're sort of, I think I've got something going on with my head today. Little touched in the head there. Right. So, Chris.
All right. So Michael said, I learned so much from it. The entire experience was very freeing and tons of aha moments.
Oh, good. Oh, good. That's brilliant. Well, Michael, we love you. We love the fact that you were brave enough to do this. I mean, and Michael's story, for those of you who didn't hear it, Michael's story is a heartbreaking one. However, we all have stories, many of them heartbreaking. It is what we choose to do with our stories. It is what we choose to do with our experience that is important. And Michael, one of Michael's concerns was that he didn't want to be a victim, and he was worried that he was a victim, and he didn't want to be a victim. But actually, I was able to assure him there was nothing victim about him, was there? He was a survivor, and he wanted to learn, and he wanted to grow, and he wanted to do all the right things. And if you do get an opportunity, you can go to YouTube and look it up. A bottom brick exercise with me, of course, or wait until later on tonight and you'll find it on the website. Anyway, Chris, let's keep going here.
All right. Cheryl says, if God created us in his own image, I am assuming that is our soul and perhaps not our physical self.
Yes.
Also, where did names come from? Sorry for such deep questions.
Where did what names come from?
She did not elaborate.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. When I say this to you all, I am not in any way trying to diminish your own beliefs or to take away from you any ideas or beliefs that you have. I'm only giving my belief and my take on this. And I was talking to someone, funny enough, yesterday about this. I do not see God, me personally, I do not see God as a man with a long white beard sitting on a big throne and looking over the rest of us and pointing his finger, okay, now it's your turn, and so on. I see God much more as an energy, as a purity, as a positive and wonderful and beautiful, incredibly golden bright energy, a universal force that, let's say, drives the universe and drives this world of ours in ways that we cannot imagine. So I do not see God as a man. I see God as more of a force, an energy, which is what our soul is. Remember the words, God made us in his image. They're man's words. They're not God's words. Remember that. And I think it's appropriate to tell just right now, and some of you have heard this story before, about the lovely lady who went into the bookstore, and she went up to the young man at the counter. She was an older woman, and she went up to the young man at the counter and she said, I'd like to buy the Bible, young man. And he said, quite naturally, yeah, certainly, which version would you like? Would you like St. James? Would you like this? Would you like that? because anyone who knows anything at all about books knows there are a trillion versions. I don't know how many, I'm saying a trillion. There are many, many, many versions of the Bible written by different people. They've been interpreted over and over again. They've been, and most people know that the Bible was written by a group of men. I do not believe at the time there were any women involved, because we might have had a different Bible had that been the case. But all of these very wise and educated men sat around and they created the Bible. Now, they took the language, and so if you think about this, I'm sort of digressing a little bit, but if you think about it, the language of the time did not contain any vowels. So imagine words without vowels. What would we do with them? And there are still languages today that are used very much so, and that don't have vowels. But if you look at the Bible, of course, there are vowels. It's written in English for those of us who are in the Western world. It is written in English, which means that someone had to interpret it. A man had to interpret it. So here's this lady. She's saying, no, the man saying to her, the salesman saying to her, we've got this version, we've got that version, we've got another version. Which is the version that you would like? And this old lady got very frustrated, and eventually she banged her fist down on the counter and she said, "Young man, I want the Bible that God wrote." Well, we know, don't we? There is no such thing, because God did not write this. These are man's words and man's interpretation on the things that happened. Again, when we read in any book, or when we read anything at all, you're relying on very often on the author to give you the facts and so on. But at some point in there, you're going to get the author's feelings and thoughts as well intermingled within that. So so when you say God, we're told that God made us in His image. It is an idea that men had, not necessarily true. Chris, let's move on before I say anything else and get confused. Right, move on.
All right. Ciora is asking, I've heard that narcissists and sociopaths are, quote, young souls. If they are young souls, why do they seek power and control on earth, and often are the ones in power? Why are souls in power?
Okay, this is a huge topic. The bit about why are souls in power, we're leaving that. As far as narcissists and whatever else it was, are young souls, I absolutely do not agree. I do not know where people get this information from. I totally disagree. You can be an ancient soul and be a narcissist. You can be a young soul and be a narcissist. Narcissism does not apply to the age of the soul. It applies to the growth of the soul. And we know that there are men and women who walk this earth who should know better. I mean, come on, we say he's in his 50s or he's 37 years old. Surely he knows better by now, but he doesn't, because he hasn't learned anything. And then we can talk to a 9 or 10-year-old, I'm thinking my grandson now, who is so wise. So it's got nothing to do with age. It's got to do with wisdom, with growth, with learning, and whether people choose to learn or not to learn. That's as much as I can say about it. I do love the question, though, and thank you. What's the name of that person? Sonora, lovely name it was. Anyway, I do thank you for that. Chris.
All right. Pamela is saying, do you and Gray Eagle do animal communication? In one of my chats, I mentioned my horse, Doc. He is blind in his right eye from an accident. I have wondered what happened. Would Gray Eagle know?
Oh, I'm sure so. I'm sure so. You're asking me to ask him now, and I'm not going to ask him now, because we need to that would mean we need to go much more into your life and so on. And I don't want to be flippant when I do these things. And so, You know, I could easily say, "Oh yes, this happened," and you might believe me, but it wouldn't necessarily be true. We'd have to go much more into it in order to know properly. And so I'm always very careful about not giving flippant reasons and so on. People who are not real do that. They sound really good, don't they? But they're not necessarily right. But anyway, moving on. So, if you would like us to give healing to Doc, if you'd like to send healing, we can put him on our healing list, absolutely. And we can certainly. I'm already feeling this animal because I think that he is lovely. I get a wonderful feeling when I'm talking about Doc. I want to sort of just embrace him because I think he's really lovely, lovely soul. Yeah, anyway, Chris, moving on.
I unfortunately have a landscaper going by with the lawnmower at the moment, so I apologize for the background noise.
We're not.
Gail wants to know, does a consultation work better if I have a pressing concern? I kind of just want to see which of my loved ones may show up and have something to say.
No. Um, I was talking to someone this week who was involved in a consultation, and they were thanking me, and I was saying to them, look, I said it's so many people want to talk to their loved ones in the spirit world, but they can't do it themselves. So I'm thanking you for giving your parents the opportunity to do this. What you do when you come for a consultation with me, I can't talk about anybody else. What you do when you come for a consultation with me is you're opening the door. You're saying, okay, let's go visit. Let's come visit. And whether those issues are pressing or whether it's just you want a conversation or whether you just want to, whatever it is you want to know. And there are always things that we want to know. There are always things that we want to ask our loved ones in the spirit world. Sometimes they're important things and sometimes they're not so important to anyone perhaps but us. But no, you don't have to have a particular pressing reason to talk to someone in the spirit world. They're open whenever you are. That's for sure. Chris.
Sharon says, I've had many consultations with Rosemary, and she is beyond amazing,
Oh,
detailed, accurate,
oh,
warm,
oh,
genuine,
oh,
caring. I can't express enough what a gift she is. I'm
oh,
already looking forward to our next session.
oh, Sharon. All of those lovely compliments. Bang, bang. Yeah, well, thank you so much. I think that, we talk about warmth and loving and fun and so on. I have to tell you, I have the best job ever. Who in this world gets to actually have conversations? It's not just that I'm seeing people in the spirit world. It's not just that I see them there. It's not that I sort of am saying, I feel that they are saying this. I don't feel it. I'm hearing it. We're having a conversation. We're talking. We're having our back and forth. They tell me when I've got something wrong. Gregor certainly tells me if I've got something wrong, if I've misheard something, which occasionally happens, or if I'm struggling to understand things. There we have a real back and forth and a real communication. It's not just the airy fairy stuff that goes on here. Your mum and dad tell me that they love you, and there you go, and off you go. No, if your mum and dad are there, you really think they're going to be happy just to say that to you? Absolutely not. They're going to want to talk about all sorts of things. So they and I, we have this great communication, this great stuff going on, and why wouldn't I be warm and loving? Because I'm loving everything I'm doing. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving being able to bring people together with their loved ones who they thought they'd lost, and then it turns out they haven't lost at all. I have the best job in the world, and I think when I'm giving consultations, that comes out. It just flows out of me because I'm having so much fun, even in the painful times. Chris. Are you there, Chris? Is the lawnmower getting in the way?
Yeah, just a sec. Judy from Georgia is saying, my father came to me after he passed. He said he did not know how much he was loved until he died.
Nice.
Such comfort for me.
How nice, Julie. Wonderful. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah, great. Okay.
Lorraine is asking, how are you feeling after the fall? You seem better.
I'm fine.
Thank goodness.
I won't be able to get up off the sofa without some help.
Take a while.
It took me a little while to get onto the sofa. We did have that moment of thinking, will I be able to do this or not? Because because I'm a bit stiff. But, you know, I'm going to go out this afternoon and I'm going to be in the sunshine and I'm going to read and Karen is going to wait on me hand, foot and finger. How about that? I mean, you can't ask for better than that, can you? But thank you very much for asking. I really appreciate it. You know, I've had so many falls in my life. My ankles are so weak because I must have twisted them so many times throughout my lifetime. If I started to try to count, I wouldn't be able to because so many times. But anyway, it is what it is. This is life. And I laughed about Chris when you mentioned, sorry about the lawnmower. We are on a live show, you know, anything can happen here. So if we have to put up with the lawnmower, I think we can manage to do that. Is there anything, Chris?
Yeah,
I know.
last question since we're about at time. This question's from Julie. If the person was of a certain religion or faith, have you found as they didn't approve in life, they didn't approve? No, let me state that again. Have you found as they didn't approve in life, they didn't want to come through at consultation?
Well, everybody's different. But you would be amazed at the amount of people that I've talked to in the spirit world who said, who knew? I didn't know this, I didn't know that. None of us get it right, you know. It doesn't matter what we believe. There's more to learn. There's more to understand. And I find that the idea of someone having to say, I was wrong, I think the love that they have for their loved ones here on this earth will definitely overcome the little bit of pride. Whoops, I didn't know, I had no idea. And I hear that so many times from people in the spirit world, and it's joyful. It isn't, oh dear, I was wrong, and oh my goodness. It's a joyful thing. Oh, who knew is what I get. Who knew this could happen? Who knew we could do this? Who knew that I would see my family again? Who knew the welcome that I would get, and so on and so forth. So, Julia, we all have our beliefs. We all have our belief systems, and we're all wrong in some ways, you know. None of us have got it 100% right, and none of us have got it 100% wrong. I have to think about that last one. I'm not sure. I'm leaving it at that. I'm being benign in my comment there. All right, so that's it. Well, thank you. So it's been a wonderful morning. If you want to join us this evening, it will be p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that will be 11 p.m. British time, and the rest of the world you have to sort it out yourselves. I'm sorry to say, because hey, I'm not a walking clock, so I don't know. So if you would like to join us, it will be on a more serious topic. We will be talking about violence. We'll be talking about lying. We'll be talking about cheating. We'll be talking a little bit about the Johnny Depp thing. I'll be giving you some of my opinions on that. I'll be giving you some of my opinions on the people who are saying we're not getting the publicity we deserve. We'll be talking about violence and how we can combat it, or what do we do with it, because so much of it is so out of our control. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So if you have any comments or questions or anything at all that you would like to sort of put forward, we'd love to have you visit us. There will be the chat room, and Chris will be here and Karen will be here. She'll still be here. She'll still be.
Rosemary, we should also mention that there will be no story time on Saturday.
Oh, yes. Well, there's a very special something happening on Saturday. I'm not allowed to say because it's not my special something.
Of course you can say.
Well, I think it's for you to say, not for me to say.
All right. On Saturday in the town where my husband Mike and I live, they are dedicating a memorial bench to him near to the baseball fields where he used to umpire and coach and help out with the little league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the town honoring him, and unfortunately, it's at the same time we do our show. So I'm going to the bench memorial.
Well, of course you are, Chris, and we would never have it any other way. So there will be no story time on Saturday, but as I've said, we'll be doing the show tonight, so that just going to have to make up for it. And we maybe on Sunday we'll see how free Chris is, because I know her family coming to be around her with this on this special day. And Chris, we do wish you all the joy and all the love of this special day. And of course, Mike is looking right at me. He will be there. You know this. You don't need me to tell you this, but he's laughing at me as I'm saying that to you. He will be there. So we should be thinking about you on that day, and possibly if you're free on Sunday or Monday, because we know it's a holiday weekend, we might do an off the cuff as well. So we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to say thank you to you, Chris. You do such an awesome job. Of course, I'd like to say thank you to Karen. Last but by no means least, I'd like to say thank you to Grey Eagle. And I once again thank you to all of you. We love having you. We love your comments. We love the fact that you're watching. I'm hoping that some of you are groupies. I love groupies. She's a groupie. I love my groupies. Anyway, so until I see you again, everyone, please, please, please have a very blessed of the day, and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.